Hello everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening as we have people joining from around the world today. I'm Roger Gattell, VP of Sales here at Dundas Data Visualization, and I'll be helping facilitate the webinar. Thank you for joining. The intent of the webinar today is to give many of you your first glimpse of our new business intelligence tool, Dundas BI. We're excited to show this to organizations and help them connect and interact and visualize with data with unprecedented ease and functionality. Our customers have asked for a way that they can easily share information and analytics across their organization, not with just technical users, but with the business users in mind as well. Dundas BI is that tool. It helps organizations unlock the value of their data to be shared both with peers and managers, but also with customers in meaningful ways. Additionally, we've built the BI experience with feedback from many of you on the call today, and we thank you for that. We're proud of the hard work that's gone into this, and we're excited to show it to you today. There are two additional people joining me on the call today, and I'd like to introduce them now. We have our VP of Research and Development, Mariana Stoica, who's going to review some of the key design considerations that gave rise to our latest business intelligence offering. And leading us on a product demo will be our lead solution architect, Ariel Pohorilis. So welcome to them. Let's take a quick look at the agenda for today. There will be a chance to ask questions after the demo, and we'll endeavor to get to all of them before the end of the webinar today. But should you have specific needs or would like a more detailed response, then we'd be happy to follow up with you directly. Just send us a quick email at info@dundas.com, and we'll be sure to get right back to you. Also, there are a number of options for both the technical and business users to get more of a hands-on feel, and we can discuss those later in the call as well. To kick things off, let me start by sharing some information with you about Dundas. We've been in the data visualization and the business intelligence space for over 20 years. And in that time, we've built up a tremendous amount of expertise and helped thousands of users to better understand their data, adapt quickly to trends, and ultimately grow and succeed. We sold Dundas Chart to Microsoft back in 2007 and introduced a comprehensive dashboarding tool, Dundas Dashboard, a few years later. Now, with different needs of different users in mind, we have both our Dashboard 5.0 in the market and our Dundas BI in the market, and both will continue to provide reporting and analytics and intelligence tools in the marketplace. We are based in Toronto, Canada, and our customers operate globally. And with that, we have deep experience working with not only the customers directly, but with local partners across a variety of industries. Let's talk a little bit about why customers choose Dundas. There are a number of reasons. Our product development and innovation is really at the core of what we do. But then we have a team of subject matter experts in professional services that can help you create a successful solution beyond just the technology. As the needs for a comprehensive business intelligence tool have grown within the business community, so have the requirements to broaden the access to that information and allow a variety of users to consume the data and gain valuable insights. Dundas has helped facilitate this exchange and this interaction in a secure and fully controlled environment. I talked earlier about our global customer base. Our products are flexible enough to be able to meet a variety of industry requirements. And there on the right, you see some of the companies that we're working with today across industries: telecom, pharmaceutical, manufacturing, and financial services. I'll now turn things over to Mariana Stoica, our VP of R&D, who will talk to you a little bit about the design considerations that went into the building of our Dundas BI product.
Thank you, Roger, and thank you everyone for joining us today. With Dundas BI, we continue the tradition of innovating quality business intelligence products with focus on data visualization and flexibility in mind. At the beginning, our target audience were developers and their requirements. As a result, Dundas developed data visualization components which were very flexible with high quality and so good that Microsoft did buy the intellectual property in 2007. With Dundas Dashboard, we successfully developed an enterprise platform to meet the requirements of power users, developers, and as well IT and system administrators. Dundas Dashboard is being recognized as one of the most flexible data visualizations on the market. With lessons learned from Dundas Dashboard, with the feedback from our customers, and by listening to market needs, Dundas BI is targeting the needs of any BI user which has to consume, control, and create business intelligence content. And that means from pure viewers to business users to power users, integrators, developers, and system administrators. So what is Dundas BI? It is an end-to-end enterprise-ready business intelligence solution with focus on data presentation, which offered tailored self-service analytics and single experience across all devices through all data sources. So what this means to you as a consumer of BI content, so for example you had other people do the work and you just enjoy it, then you will be able to further customize what you see. You'll be able to drill down, drill through, collaborate, share, and much more. If you are the one that needs to create powerful and interactive pixel-perfect dashboard reports without having to worry how your data is structured, then you will get the on-the-fly data analysis. Our unified data layer allows you to work in the same way with your data, does not matter where and how it is stored. Our very modern and powerful designer will enable you to explore, analyze data, and create your BI content on any device. Just imagine you start to work on your dashboard on a desktop. You go home and continue to develop using your tablet. You are on the GO train if you take one, and you open it on your smartphone. And all this with having to install any additional applications or modules. If you are a very technical data analyst, which needs to prepare data for other people, then you will get our very modern ETL designer, which will allow you to transform, to clean, and to prepare the data. If you are a developer, an integrator, a partner, you want to be a partner, then you will benefit from our flexible platform, which will allow you to customize, extend, integrate to meet any requirements that you will get from your own users. If you are an IT person, which worries about security, version control, full control of deployment, user management, and so on, then you will get this out of the box, since the application was developed with your requirements in mind. So let's drill down more on what you can do with Dundas BI. You are able to connect to any type of data that you have through our many out-of-the-box data connectors. As I mentioned, you can clean, transform, prepare your data for other people through our ETL layer, which allows you to create OLAP-like structures named data cubes. You are able to access your data either directly from your data sources or using our in-memory analytics or Dundas BI data warehouse. And the beauty of it is that on one dashboard you can have all these three as your data sources to be displayed. You are not constrained again. Our UI was developed using HTML5 with mobile requirements in mind. This is why you can explore, analyze data, and create dashboards, reports, scorecards on any device, tablets, desktops, smartphones. Please try it. We have on our website a free online trial that you can access at any time. You can collaborate on your content through annotations, alerts, share, export, and much more. And as I mentioned, all of this was built on a fully API, public API-enabled platform with .NET, REST, and JavaScript APIs. In addition, we offer you customization options through JavaScript and CSS styling. When we developed this application, our motto was that what a business user can do through UI, a developer should be able to do through APIs. Therefore, everything that you see on the UI, it is available to do through APIs. At last but not least, again, we have the administration, which is built-in, with built-in functionality, which will allow you to manage your large or small-scale deployments, will allow you to manage your users. The security, which differs so much from company to company, and as well with full version control. And now I'll finally let my colleague Ariel to show you the power of Dundas BI. Thank you, and I hope you really like it.
Thank you, Mariana. So just before we dive into the demo, I wanted to quickly touch upon Dundas BI architecture. Starting with the users layer, Dundas BI is completely browser-based. Every user, whether it is a simple business user or an advanced developer, can access the entire application directly from an HTML5 browser. There is no need for any install of desktop applications or to do complex deployments. It is all done directly in your browser on any device, whether it is a desktop, laptop, tablet, or even a smartphone. Even the administrator can use the touch-friendly user interface to control the solution directly from his tablet. On the application server layer, Dundas BI is using an IIS web server, coupled with an application database to store all the configurations users apply for the browsers. Dundas BI can be deployed on-premise on your own server, or you can deploy it on a third-party hosting provider, such as Amazon or Rackspace. When it comes to bringing data to the users, Dundas BI can pull data directly from many different data sources, including all common relational databases, such as SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, to all data sources, such as SQL Server Analysis Services, SAP BW, or Oracle Essbase Cubes. It can also pull data from flat files or cloud data sources, such as Salesforce or Google Analytics. And as mentioned earlier, Dundas BI can also pull data directly from a prepared data model you have defined on top of your existing data connections. In Dundas BI, you can also store those data models in memory or in the Dundas BI data warehouse. This can optimize your performance and allow you to pull the information even faster to the users. Finally, it is important to know that all the options I'll be showing you today using the user interface are accessible for an extensive set of public APIs. Those APIs allow you to further extend, integrate, and customize your solution using a .NET, a REST, or a JavaScript-based API. So with that, we are now ready to dive into the Dundas BI demo. So what I'd like to do here is I'd like to demo the application using the different types of users Mariana mentioned earlier. So we'll start with the consumers, the pure viewers that will be looking at predefined dashboards and reports. We'll move into the non-technical business users, which are the data analysts or the business analysts that would like to create additional dashboards or additional content for the other users. And finally, we'll end up with the advanced developers that can further customize and deploy and maintain the solution. So the first thing I'd like to do is to bring up an example of a finished dashboard. Here's a sales dashboard we built for a company named Corgent. This dashboard is showing different metrics across the sales organization, such as the sales results, the top clients, the health of the upcoming funnel, the upcoming meeting booked in the next 45 days, as well as the client distribution across different locations we operate on, overlaid on top of the market share. What you can tell here, for example, on the top left-hand chart, is the fact that we've actually showed the quarterly results overlaid with the sales quarterly results of the previous period, in this case, the previous year. I'll show you later how you can create this kind of contextual data easily on top of the different charts. The other things user can do is can easily drill down, drill through into other dashboards or apply filtrations on different data points simply by using the available filters or right-click options or long tap if you're using a mobile device on top of the different data visualizations on this dashboard. You'll also notice that there's different notes available on top of this chart. These notes are also available to the different users simply by right-clicking a specific data point and adding the note option. I'll show you again later how to create those notes. But in this case, you can see those notes are highlighting and explaining different events within our quarterly results. You can also tell that those notes can actually be used as a full discussion where there's a question and answer directly on top of a dashboard data point. In the middle here, the top clients, this is actually reports embedded to this dashboard. Users can go in and see this report directly in its own page, or can view it embedded directly into this dashboard. On the bottom left, under the upcoming funnel, beyond the fact that this chart provides you the ability to quickly identify which one of our sales rep has a healthy funnel, it also helps you to associate the results of this data point with other visualizations on this dashboard. For example, I can see here there's an unhealthy funnel for Lindsay, and if I put my cursor on top of Lindsay, I can see the associated data points on the upcoming meetings in the next 45 days highlighted on top of that chart. I can also hover over a different sales rep and highlight their upcoming sales meeting and understand which one of my sales rep is expected to have a healthy funnel going forward. Looking at my chart, at my map, I can see here there's two different types of visualizations used on top of it. It's both my client distribution as well as my client reach. And that is overlaid on top of the different market shares and can help me understand where do I want to expand and grow into. Users can also use that to interact and further drill down into other dashboards or visualizations. For example, here I can click on Florida, and this will actually take me into another dashboard, in this case the sales pivot table, showing me data filtered specifically for Florida. Here the user can further customize and apply additional filtrations. They can go back to all locations, all the different states, and view the information across the different locations and the different selections of filters they applied. Now, everything I've showed you so far, this is all in full screen mode. That is maybe a common mode that you may be using for some of the users, but more of the advanced users may be using the mode where you can see the actual toolbar of the dashboard. We'll touch upon the toolbar and the different options available in the toolbar in a moment, but the first thing I'd like to point you to is the option to edit this dashboard in your own copy. So this now takes us into the second use case. The more advanced users, the business analyst or the data analyst, which are not necessarily technical, but users that still want to be able to customize, create their own analysis, their own dashboards, and publish those with other users. So editing this dashboard in your own copy basically allows you to create another copy of this dashboard that you can then change, customize with your own styling, with your own metric sets, and then share with additional users, almost as a save as option. So that is one option to be able to customize and modify different dashboards. Another option is just to create new elements directly from the expandable menu on the left-hand side. So you can just create a new option, and from here open a new dashboard, a new template, or a new report, and create that for your analysis. You can also go back to your home page, and this is the home page of the Dundas BI application. Now, before I dive into other object creation analysis, I'd like to take you quickly through this home page and explain the different options available on this page. What you'll notice here is the fact that this home page contains all the common operations you may want to use directly from this screen. For example, the ability to explore new data points and create your own analysis, or the option to create a new report. You can also establish new data connections or new metric sets, and if you are defined as an administrator in the system, you can also access the administration options directly from here. Now, the important thing to remember is that this home screen is tailored by the type of user that logs in. So for example, if I log in as a standard user, the simplified user that I mentioned earlier, the one that's just consuming those predefined dashboards and reports, that type of user is not able to actually connect to data sources or define what we call data cubes or new hierarchies, which I'll talk about later. So for these users, the only option they'll be able to see is the ability to explore data, create new dashboards, new reports, new scorecards, or new slideshows. The other types of users that will log in will be able to see more options based on their permissions. For example, advanced users, the power users will be able to also establish hierarchies and metric sets in connection to data, and the full developers in the system will be able to access all the options that you can see in front of you. The last thing I'd like to mention about the home screen is the Customize Home option. This Customize Home option allows all users to dictate and define what set of dashboards and reports or scorecards they will have available to them right on top of the home screen. This can serve as a very quick way to navigate to the different dashboard and reports instead of searching within the folders and finding the predefined dashboard and reports that are already created in the system. Now let's go back to the second use case, the use case where I have the data analyst and the business analyst, still not very technical users, but users who actually want to be able to explore the data, create their own content, and share it with other users. So they can do it by simply creating a new dashboard or a new report. They can also click on the Explore Data option, and this option will take them into a new dashboard canvas where they can start exploring data directly from the data objects available on the right-hand side. So on the right-hand side, you can see all the available data elements that are already defined in the system. What can also be done is simply bring in your own data into the dashboard canvas. So for example, if you have your Excel spreadsheet already defined with some data, you can just open up that Excel spreadsheet from your Windows Explorer folder and drag and drop it onto the dashboard canvas. This will now establish a connection to your Excel spreadsheet and will actually show you the data from the first sheet in that Excel spreadsheet available to you as a table on your dashboard. From here, you can start analyzing that data using the different visual options that Dundas BI provides. For example, if I want to switch that to a different type of visualization, I can modify the selection of columns, or I can just delete that object and then expand the list of data connectors on the right-hand side, access this data connection that was created for me when I dragged and dropped that file, and access the different columns available within that spreadsheet. For example, let's say I want to analyze my sales amount. So I can just drag and drop the sales amount, and this will show me the sum of all the sales across all the different locations and dates I've operated in. What I can also do is I can use the date column and show that as well in my report, and this will now give me the sales amount across the different days. Now again, in my business, I actually need to be able to aggregate the information and view it not only at the date level, but at different levels as well. I can expand this date column and use the built-in detection of Dundas BI that helps me to work with those date fields. So I can now see the different suggestions that Dundas BI offers to me to use in terms of being able to aggregate this information to different hierarchy levels. For example, I can use the default time dimensions provided in the system as the year, month, day, or the year, week, day, or I can just drag and drop a custom hierarchy level that I or a different user define in the system and just use that to group my data. So as mentioned earlier, I typically group my data at the quarterly level, so I'm going to use the year, quarter, month, and day hierarchy and just drag and drop that onto my visualization, and this will now automatically aggregate information and group it to the year level, the top level of my hierarchy. Now I can really go into discovering this data visually. So one of the options I can do is, for example, click on the Revisualize option from the toolbar at the top, and this will now show me all the different types of visualizations that I can use to represent this data. So for example, maybe in this case, I'd like to show the different years using different bars. So I'm just going to change that into a bar chart, and now I can easily view the information across the different years using those bars. On the top left-hand side, I can switch between the edit mode, which allowed me to design this dashboard, into a view mode that allows me to use a bit more of the interactions options available on this chart. So for example, I can apply the common type of drill down that you would expect on any type of visualization. So for example, a right click on this year, and the drill down on it will take me to the quarter level of that specific year. I can obviously drill back up and view the information at the quarter level. But what I can also do, and I think this ties back to the smarter visualization we talked about earlier, is the ability to use the built-in interactions options available directly on top of the chart without necessarily using a right click. For example, here, I can expand that specific 2013 year, and this will now allow me to view the information across the different years, and then for that specific year, 2013, I can actually see the information across the different quarter levels and going back to the year. Now I can tell that the third quarter in 2013 was actually more significant than the entire year of 2011. So that's a very powerful way to allow me to easily view the information across the different data levels without having to change the entire chart level into that specific hierarchy level. I can go back again to the year information, and I can do this kind of change levels directly as well from the menu. So if I change the level, I can choose which one of the hierarchy levels I want to use to aggregate my information, and I'm going to go down into the monthly level now. Now here again, Dundas BI charts are smart enough to allow me to automatically view the information using the scroll. So there's many different months, so I can easily view the information as I scroll and move along. But if I want to view all the information at once, I can just right click my chart, choose to zoom out, and view all the months together. So up until now, I've showed you the option that I can use to modify the data level I'm using according to my different hierarchies. There's more options available to me to interact with information, such as applying sorting or filtration. We'll go back to the notes as mentioned later. But there's other options that I find very interesting when I use this dashboard. For example, the ability to modify the data and add some contextual information on top of this chart. So not only using the existing data sets that were provided to me or the Excel that I've brought into this dashboard, but actually the ability to further customize and add more information into this chart to serve as contextual information and understand if that performance is actually increasing or decreasing in this case over time. So for example, if I open the Modify Data menu, I have three different options here. The top option is the ability to add that period over period comparison I mentioned earlier. That is a very common contextual metric that I need to use on many of my charts, and oftentimes this requires very complex data manipulations to get the actual data for the previous period results. What I can do here is I can easily add that period over period comparison, and this will prompt me to this menu where I can choose what kind of period I want to use to compare my data against. So for example, by default here, it's using the year level. I can change that maybe to a different period. But if I'm happy with the year level, I can just apply this, and this will now add a new series to my chart, showing me the results of this year versus the previous year. And you can tell that the first few months, I don't actually have the results for the previous period, and that is why those results are not displaying in my chart. What I can also do is I can keep on interacting with this data in a visual way just by right-clicking the data and maybe choosing to revisualize it to a different type of visualization. So let's say here I'll switch this to a line chart, and now I can easily view the trend of this year versus the previous year. So that is good. This is providing me a lot of options here to now understand if I'm doing better or worse comparing to the previous period, which is typically very important when your data is seasonal. But what I also want to do is add some additional attributes to this chart to better understand if this information is actually improving or decreasing against the previous period without necessarily having to go for each one of those bars and checking the trend against the previous year trend. So the way I can do that is simply again by right-clicking my chart and using the Modify Data menu and then applying the state options on top of this chart. So the state options allow me to define different conditions in which I'll be basically dictating how this chart will behave. So for example, in this case, I want to add a new state groups, and I'm going to say this is versus the previous period, and I'm going to add a new state in here, and this state will be bad in the case where my value is less than the previous period. So if I apply this state now, I can now bind this to the visual, and this will automatically color the different data points in my chart, the different months where my results are actually acting below the previous year results. So that is very powerful. Very quickly now I can understand that March 2013, that is the data point where I'm actually trending below the previous year. And what happened here? Why are my results now not continuing that trend where I'm actually performing better than the previous year? So maybe here I have some additional intelligence which is not necessarily related to my data, but is actually known to me as a user in the business. So for example, in this case, I actually know that the March 2013 results are lower than the previous year because of the Tour de France scandal that happened in 2013. This is actually affecting directly my sales around the products which are associated with the Tour de France, like bags and accessories and all the other products related to the cycling world. So what I can do here is I can just add that insight into my dashboard just by right-clicking this data point and clicking on the Add Note option. This will now expose a bar at the top here, allowing me to type in this note. So I can say March 2013, low due to Tour de France scandal. I can then apply this, and I can even go back and again change my chart to view the information at the year level and view all those different years together with that note I just added on top of that dashboard data point. Okay, so now that I know my data over time, maybe let's take a look at the data using additional dimensions. So in order to change the additional and add additional metrics onto this dashboard, I can just go back to the edit view and keep on using that expandable menu on the right hand side where I can explore all the different data objects and just use from here additional data columns. For example, let's view again the sales amount, and in this case what I'd like to do is just use that across the different countries I operate in. So I'm just going to drag and drop the country column into this visualization, and again I can go into the revisualize option and choose whatever type of visualization that works for me to represent this data. Because this is data across different locations, I'm actually going to go in here and use the map visualization. Now what this will do, it will actually go back into the map already loaded into Dundas BI and pull the right map to show my information. What I can do next is go into the data visualization menu and now add the legend control to represent the different values associated with the different countries on this map. I can drag and drop that legend onto the map, resize it and reorganize it to show the different values according to the actual size I'm granting to the legend itself. So very easy, very quick for me to actually go in, organize and style the different elements, and then be able to create a full dashboard out of this and share it with other users. So now I have on my chart, on my dashboard, two different elements. I have both my bar charts showing data across different dates, as well as my map showing data across different locations. Now let's say I want to actually investigate and analyze my information across different products. That data doesn't exist in my Excel spreadsheet. However, that data does exist in my database. I can actually go directly to my database connection. So for example, a relational database that was actually predefined as a connection to me by a different developer in the system, and I can go in and browse the different tables and views available in that database and just drag and drop any field available from those tables into my dashboard. For example, here I can expand the sales order details, and I can view the different fields available within that table, and maybe drag and drop the order quantity, and again next to it the modified date, but in this case I'll drag and drop the hierarchy directly. So I'm now viewing the information across different dates with the order quantities next to it, and what I want to do next is view that information for different products I sell. So I can just drag and drop the product ID which is available in that table. Now If I go into the data binding panel, I can actually choose where do I want to place that additional dimension in my chart. So if I go in and drag and drop it directly, it will just place it as another row dimension, organizing my information by different years and then by different product IDs. What I can also do is I can move that product ID into the columns and actually now create a pivot table for this data. So now I can see across the different rows the years of my time dimension, and across the different columns I can now see the different product IDs. So this is great, but not very helpful when I'm looking at this and I'm actually reading product IDs. I don't remember from the top of my head which product ID associated to which product. So here again, here comes the actual part where Dundas BI helps you automatically understand and join your data with different data sources. You don't actually have to predefine that join anywhere. You can just find the right field in the other tables, for example in this case the name of the product, and drag and drop that and replace the product ID field with that specific column, and you can now see automatically how it actually joins the data and show you the information across the different products. Very simple, very quick, even for a non-technical user now to be able to show the information across different products. So this is great. Now I'm getting the information in a way that I can read it. However, I actually have too many products here to be actually able to view this information in a way that is organized. What I really want to do is to be able to organize those products across different hierarchy levels. For example, my categories, product subcategories, and then finally from there drill down into the actual products. So again, here's another way where Dundas BI helps you organize the information and do that automatic data discovery for you. To create those type of data organizations, what you want to do in Dundas BI is define a hierarchy. So you can right click and create a new hierarchy from here, and this will take you into the hierarchy designer menu. Now, what I can do here, I can just expand the existing data connectors, go back to that product table I just drag and drop the name for, and if I expand it, you can see there's different fields and different attributes associated with the different products. Now, this doesn't contain the full hierarchy I need, but for me, it is just enough to now drag and drop that table, and Dundas BI will automatically go in, understand my database relationships, and figure out the right hierarchy to use for my data. So now I can see the products organized into different categories, subcategories, all the way down to the product level. Now I can go in and rename this hierarchy. So I'll just change this to product hierarchy. And I'll go back to my dashboard. So I'll just go back, and this will take me into my dashboard screen again. And what I can do now is actually go in and use this hierarchy simply by expanding the hierarchy menu and dragging and dropping that hierarchy onto my visualization and replacing that name column. What you can see now, it's actually organizing the information by the different hierarchy levels. I can go in and view this, and I can expand that right here on top of the visual, or I can just right click and revisualize this to a different type of visualization. Maybe I want to visualize this using a bar chart showing the different product hierarchies side by side. The last thing I want to do on this dashboard is add another type of visualization, and in this case this visualization will come from my OLAP cube. So I actually have some information and data organized in the cube as well. I can just go in here, expand the different list of measures and dimensions, drag and drop any combination, and create another type of visualization right here on top of my dashboard. So I'll drag and drop here the product, but in this case I'd like to focus on the product subcategory. Reorganize this visualization on my dashboard. And now my dashboard is starting to look better. One more thing I'd like to do here is maybe add a filter control. I'm just going to open the filter menu, create a calendar range, and bind it not only to that specific top chart, but maybe also bind it to the second chart. So both of my data, even coming from Excel or my relational database, can be filtered by one single date filter, and I can keep on binding that to any other type of data source, including my OLAP data. To further customize this dashboard, I can go into the Components menu and add additional general controls that will help me design and style this dashboard even with non-related data elements. So for example, here I can simply add a label. I'll drag and drop it to the top left here, use the properties, and edit this label text to call this my sales analysis dashboard. Can resize this, organize this, and now I can go into viewing this dashboard. And here I can talk about the different options that I can now use to share and communicate this dashboard with other users. For example, I can open the share menu and just send this dashboard as a link to additional users. I can also export that into PDF, Excel, or PowerPoint. If I'm happy with this dashboard and I want to get on a schedule basis, I can just use the schedule notifications, and this will send me a report, again, using any one of those export options, maybe an Excel spreadsheet with the data in this dashboard sent to me on a daily or a weekly basis or to a group of users. I can also define data-driven notifications, more like alerts where I can be notified about a specific event where a data point is going below or above a certain threshold. Finally, I can be notified whenever other users add comments or notes to specific data points that I'm interested by. The last thing I'd like to do on this dashboard, just before I move away to the next sample, is show you how users can now further customize this. For example, let's say a different user is accessing this dashboard, and that user is not necessarily interested in viewing the target against the previous period, but he has his own target in mind for this specific chart. What he can do, he can right-click this chart again, use the Modify Data menu, and now add a formula on top of this chart. So at the top here, now what you see is a data bar or a formula bar showing me the option to type in my own formula expression, similar to the way you'll be doing it in Excel. And you can just start typing in any formula expression. Maybe you want to get a trend and forecast on top of your different dashboard data points. Maybe you want to get a top 5 data points for a specific year. In this case, the formula this user has in mind is an average across the different years. You can just choose the average formula and point and click the specific series you want to add as a variable to that average. So in this case, the sales amount. And now when you apply this, you can choose what type of output you want to use to visualize that new formula expression on top of your chart. So I'm going to use a line chart here. And what I can do now is just apply this, and this will now add a new line chart showing me this as the target for my data. Now this formula can be further customized. I can keep on adding expression to this formula, maybe additional calculations, or maybe in this case my target will be the 25% of the sales amount plus the average sales amount. So I can now apply this, and this will now recalculate and reformulate this formula to allow me to view the information according to this specific expression. Let's take another use case. This time I'm a business analyst working for the HR department, and I want to create an analysis of the performance reviews of the different employees within the organization and share that with my manager. I'll go in and create a new object, in this case a dashboard, and I can even use a template that was defined in the system for me. So I'm going to use a Dundas template. You can see this template is actually using elements that were defined in the system, allowing me to style my dashboard now according to that specific branding. And I can now use the different data objects on the right-hand side to populate this dashboard. For example, I can expand the folder of the metric sets and use any one of those predefined combinations of measures and dimensions and drag and drop those directly onto my dashboard. So for example, here I can already see for the HR department, there's a leadership overview metric set. I can drag and drop that one, and this will now visualize information across the different employees within the department. What I can see here on the left-hand side, I have my performance score, which is the review that the different employees receive. On the bottom chart, on the bottom axis, I can see the salary, and the bubble size actually represent the number of years those employees have been working within the organization. There's also labels trying to show me what kind of department those employees belong to based on the colors. What I can do next is further customize this chart. For example, I can go again into the data visualization menu and add a legend to this chart and visualize the different departments using those different colors. What I can also do is I can choose a different styling for this chart. For example, I can go in here and apply a style directly from the Apply Style menu, and this will allow me to access predefined style that Dundas BI provides you. You can also define and customize your own style. So in this case, I'm going to choose this bright chart style, and you can quickly see how this modifies the styling of this chart to use different colors based on the styling defined in that specific style. What I want to do here is actually use the Dundas style to align with my template. So I'm going to go back into the Apply Style, use the Dundas chart style, and now this will align to the overall template of this dashboard. So I have my chart that shows me information across the different employees. What I really need to do in this case is actually start from the top level, start from the department level, and then go down to the employees and understand the performance of the different employees and which one I want to invest in, which one I need to put on the performance review plan. So to start at the department level, I actually need to be able to organize the information at the department level. So assuming I'm a business analyst and I don't know much about my database structure, it's going to be pretty hard for me now to go back into my data connector and search within the different tables and views the right combinations and build a hierarchy out of that. What I can do is I can use those predefined data cubes, which represent a model of measures and dimensions, then I can now easily drag and drop onto my dashboard to create those new combinations. So these are those combinations that you can predefine into the system, enabling those non-technical users to drag and drop and create metric sets on the fly. So now I'm going to create a new type of visualization. This is going to be a scatter plot. And it's very easy for me as a non-technical user to just drag and drop the salary and the score. And you can see now that I have the organization mentioned, which is already organized to show the information across different levels. So I can just drag and drop that one. And this will now visualize the information across the different departments for the salary and the score of the employees within those departments. I can maybe even go in here, choose the type of aggregation I'm using, so show the average for the score, and now get information across the different departments, showing the average of the score of the employees within those departments. I can go and view this now, and if I hover over a specific data point, you can now see this is the engineering department, and they are the highest earners. They have the highest salaries, but their score is not necessarily higher than the other employees. I can right-click, drill down here, and maybe view the breakdown of the different employees, and maybe here choose to focus on those bottom employees and understand why those employees are performing the way they are. I can again zoom out or drill up and go back to the entire employee level, or quickly go in here, revisualize the type of visualization, and use any other type of visualization that makes sense for me in terms of the way I want to show my data. So now we've seen how a non-technical business and data analyst can go in and create their own dashboards and share those with other users. Let's see how the developers can actually enable that self-service data discovery. So we talked briefly about those data cubes that enables business users to easily drag and drop measures and dimensions from a predefined data model. Let's open one of those data cubes. So I'm going in as a developer, accessing data cubes, and opening an existing data cube. What you'll see in those data cubes is the actual data preparation model or data preparation layer that you can use to define those data models to support the analysis business users will be doing. In this case, you can see an integration process that is integrating data both from my Excel spreadsheet as well as my SQL Server database. And it's actually doing some data cleansing as well, so I'm doing some filtrations and joins. And I can add any type of data transformation I need using the common operations at the top here. So joins, aggregations, calculated elements, filtrations. I can even add advanced nodes to further manipulate and create my own specific data model. At the end, there is a process result node, which represents the data structure I want to use to enable the user to drag and drop measures and dimensions on the dashboard. So this is where I can dictate which one of my elements is acting as a measure, which one is acting as a dimension, and I can also define in here multi-level dimensions, multi-level hierarchy dimensions to support aggregations across different levels. At the end, this cube can be stored in different locations. So the storage type by default is set to none, which is basically pulling the information on the fly from your data sources. But you can also optimize the performance of this data cube by putting it into a data warehouse, into the Dundas BI data warehouse, or into the server memory to support in-memory analytics as well. This is actually using a very advanced hypergraph algorithm that supports very quick and very fast analysis on top of your data. So once I've defined those data cubes, all I need to do is just check those in and allow users to simply drag and drop elements from those data cubes onto their dashboard. Moving on to the last type of users, and that will be the administrator. So I can go into the administration tab, and you can see in here there's a full enabled environment for the administration to the administrator to support the accounts, the security groups, the project and file system. They can see the logs, licensing. If you are the administrator of a SaaS deployment where you host a solution across multiple tenants, you can even add tenants on the fly directly from your browser. And obviously, as mentioned, everything that I'm showing you here under the administration tab as well can be accessed programmatically to enable you to integrate that with your existing environment. So the last thing I'd like to show you before we close this demo is how I can deploy some of these dashboards even to big screen TVs or to large monitors that you want to use across your organization. So this option is done using the slideshow creation. So I'm going to create a new object in here, and this will be a new slideshow. Within the slideshow, I can add different items I want to use in my system to rotate on that big screen TV. So I can add any dashboard that I like to use on my slideshow. So I'm going to pick a few here, including the one I just created. And if I go into the configuration option, I can also choose how much time I want to have to rotate between each one of the dashboards. So 5 seconds for the sake of the demo is good. And if I go in and play this, I can now start seeing my dashboards loading up and switching to different dashboard views every 5 seconds. So very quickly, I can now deploy this even to a big screen display, showing those different dashboards on schedule. This option can also be used to storytell a specific story if you've created your own analysis, simply by playing that in a meeting and then pausing on the right dashboard element and maybe exiting this slideshow and going to that specific view to do additional analysis of your own. So at this point, I hope you enjoy this demo and are excited as we are about the Dundas BI. I'd like to bring it back to Roger. Thank you.
I talked earlier about some of the options available for business and technical users, and here you see them displayed here. We have a free online trial available, a live demonstration, and a free enterprise download evaluation tool. Contact us directly at info@dundas.com and we'll find you the best option that meets your needs and requirements. Thank you everyone for joining on the call today.